Reverse Malthusian population replenishment theory is the term I came up with to describe the rationalization that males and people who are assigned male at birth are more expendable in times of war and other crises because, in terms of reproduction, they provide the sperm, which can be provided in abundance by only a small few, whereas those with the uteruses, women and people assigned female at birth, it's only like one uterus, one pregnancy at a time. Now, this is all bullshit, of course. In times of crisis, the focus should be on making sure that people who are alive remain alive, not sacrificing a certain number of the population because it was calculated that they aren't needed for the demography they belong to keep those numbers moving. Like, say something happens to a country where they lose 80% of their male population. Oh, but it's okay because the 20% that remains, they can get to work, and soon enough, there's going to be a new baby boom, and then everything's going to be fixed and better, right? Not if you're part of that 80%. All your hopes and dreams for the future of your life have been permanently erased in exchange for some bullshit propagandistic sentiments like honor and glory. Frankly, I like living too much for that to seem like a sufficient consolation. Now, let's say the reverse scenario happens, where a country loses 80% of their female population. Catastrophically tragic, yes, but no more so than the previous scenario. Yeah, it's going to be a bit more of a challenge to get those population numbers back on track, but that never should have been the goal in the first place. And mind you, this is assuming that no large number of those 20% of women are child-free by choice, in which case, what would you do then? Would you tell them to go fuck their choice? But let's say getting those population numbers back up is a concern, is something we're prioritizing. There are workarounds other than reverse Malthusian repopulation replenishment theory. For one thing, in a couple decades, like a decade or two, things will get back on track because assuming that the survival of the children was prioritized over adult women and men, as opposed to women and children being prioritized over men, in a decade or two, those children will be mature enough to get to work and get those population numbers back on track. Now, let's say time is a factor. Say you're impatient, you can't wait a couple decades, we need to get those numbers back on track now, right quick. Well, immigration is always an option. But here's the thing about that. The type of people who are most likely to be ardent proponents of reverse Malthusian population replenishment theory usually have very specific preferences for the ethnic and racial hegemony of the country they live in. You know how pronatalism and anti-abortion rhetoric are tied into white supremacy? Reverse Malthusian population replenishment theory is also in that same sphere. The infamous white supremacists' 14-word manifesto that white supremacists like to reference in their usernames was literally, "We must secure the existence of our nation and the future of our white children." And I've already done 2 videos that touch on that.